Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor
Vic,
Producer.
I don't think you press go live.
Go live. Are we
Yeah,
on?
no. You have to press go live on the top right. Does it say live on yours or mine
Yeah,
doesn't?
it does. It
Huh.
does. I
Not on
am.
mine.
We are live. Yes, we are live,
Can
Gilbert.
somebody in the comments let us know because it does not say live on mine.
Yeah, we are live. I'm looking at this. It's on live, Gilbert.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
Let me just double check. Okay, there it goes. All right.
yeah,
Sorry about that. Go ahead and do your thing, Victor.
yeah.
That is
Welcome
StreamYard
to
for
House
you.
of Horns. My name is Victor. Yeah, we're live. Yeah, thank
I had
you.
to press it myself and then I just did it. It was weird. I don't know.
Yeah, so let me restart this, guys, just so we have it for when we repost this. So, welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, Sports Illustrated, AMQB. Gilbert, the Lions outlast the Rams 26-20 in overtime, and I'll just tell you right off the bat that before I ask you what your thoughts on, I thought, win or lose, as I tweeted, I thought this was a gutsy performance by the Rams with all the injuries. But a loss is a loss. I just want to get your takeaways from this. I'm sure you have a lot to say about this game.
Yeah, this is it's a story with a lot of stories, right? And
Right.
it felt like a long time ago when we were talking about, or at least the broadcast was talking about, they're down to their third string left tackle. They've got three injuries on the offensive line. They lost Puka Nacua, and it's like, how the heck are they still in that game? And then you see vintage performance from Cooper Cup. You're seeing guys stepping up like Tyler Johnson. You're seeing a young defense playing their butt off. You're seeing an amazing interception from a veteran like John Johnson. You're seeing massive hits to Matthew Stafford and he's still connecting. And then, the stupid overtime rule where you can't get the football back after a touchdown. It's so much worse than the stupid going live here on StreamYard. I'm still mad about that because it did not go live on me. But yeah, it was one of those games where, like, that's it. Like, it was so
Yeah.
good and a great story. And the Rams were, but I'm not going to lie, I did enjoy Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford being there at center field for the overtime coin toss. And I kind of had a feeling when the Lions got the coin toss, they're gonna just keep running the football because that defense looked tired. And yeah, it's week one, and your body's getting used to it, and you don't have Aaron Donald. You're a young defense, and you're in a hostile environment. Like, it was a smart play by the Lions, but a little kind of bitter ending where they couldn't get the football back. But hey, it seemed like it was a game the Rams were not supposed to be in, and it became a good game in overtime. And here we are talking about what could have been.
Yeah, and so we got a lot to get into, Gilbert, as you talked about. I just want to make sure we reset the show for everybody. We will get to your comments. I see Daniel Calderon he was on here before we even hopped on. We have Bly by Night, Gilbert Ruiz, and is it Nathan 02, I'm gonna say, and we'll get to your comments, guys. But just want to, uh, just kind of reset the show here, Gilbert, in terms of what we got for everybody. This is a post game show. We want everybody to join in, give us your comments, give us your reaction, and then just your as the engagement question of the day for me is, what's the biggest takeaway from the loss to the Lions? And for me, Gilbert, I'm gonna say that, it, as I talked about it at the beginning with my first takeaway, I thought this was a really gutsy performance from this team on the road on Sunday Night Football. You lose Puka Nacua, you lose Joe Noteboom, you lose Steve Avila, and yet you have to put in a rookie center in Bolimmer, and then bring in also also before the game you lose your right tackle as well. So I thought once they fell behind 17-13, I thought this game was over. I thought the Lions were going to blow them out. That wasn't the case. I mean, the Rams went on that, they scored 17 unanswered points, and then they took the lead, and you kind of knew once they got the ball back, I was like, you need to keep the ball away from the Lions at this point. And once they had to punt back again, I knew that at that point that it was going to be game over for the Rams, just because you're leaving your defense out there for way too much time. And I thought one of the keys, I don't know about you, but Kyron Williams not going out of bounds, I should say, and not staying in bounds was huge for the outcome of this game. But as I said, I wanted to, I told you before we hopped on, I wanted to get your reaction in terms of, I know Sean McVay gets a lot of praise for not playing his starters during the preseason, but did him not playing them here kind of cost him because they were all worn out? Like, there's no callus on these players because you're not used to playing. You haven't been used to playing. You haven't played since January a full game, and so for you not to play them during the preseason, this might have cost you the game as well, Gilbert.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why like we didn't really see like I guess like a different or unique style for Chris Shula. It was very kind of safe zone defense and whatever they ran the last couple of years with Raheem Moore. They kind of felt like the same thing there, and and to the credit they were holding it down because the Lions couldn't get Sam Laporta involved. They couldn't get Amon St. Brown. They kind of just took away a lot of the stuff in the middle of the field. That's why they got beat a couple of times by Jameson Williams, who I called out by the way this week, and JMO went off. But that's
Hmm.
because when you get caught in one-on-one coverage for Davis White, lost on the double move there. But overall, it was a good defensive performance. But you're right, Victor. Like you have some veteran guys that probably needed to get involved with this new defense, like a Tre'Davious White. You'll have some young guys like Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, and pretty much a new look linebacker unit because you lost Ernest Jones. So I think I don't want to say it's the entire story, but it was part of it. Not having the reps and having the wind and being in rhythm defensively. But for the most part, I'll give Chris Shula some credit. He kept it simple for week one, and it's not his fault that the players didn't get preseason reps there. That's Sean McVay's call there. They got some good pressure there. I thought Michael Hoyt had some good moments too. Kobe Durant was, should have got an interception, but he was making plays. That was a nice tip pass. So you're seeing guys, overall in that defensive unit making plays against a very good offense in the Detroit Lions. Maybe people in the comments don't want to hear kind of like the positive fluff there. I kind of feel like I'm doing too much of that, but it's hard when you see, like you mentioned, Victor, like third stringers on the offensive line. Bo Limmer, a rookie, starting at center. You got AJ Curry, who had a hard time with Aiden Hutchinson, but for the most part wasn't a total liability. Yeah, they were helping out there with Kobe Parkinson and some chipping here and there, but they weren't supposed to be in that game. It kind of felt like it was over. At least I was kind of like looking around. Okay, is this going to be it? When it was like I think it was 17-3. I'm going back and forth, but it was such a long game where so many different ups and downs. You're right on the Kyron Williams not going out of bounds. So yeah, the second win it was 17-20, and they got the ball one more time. They should have put away the Lions at
Yep.
that opportunity when they gave it back and they started moving up the field for a field goal. Uh, they were giving them another chance, and then they lost the coin flip. That was definitely it felt over there, but it's tough because you do want to give them credit for fighting back and pushing hard, and that's always kind of the sign of a Sean McVay team or less need roster that he builds because he finds guys that just play hard and know how to thrive in moments when they weren't supposed to be their number wasn't supposed to be called. But overall, I'm sure people are probably annoyed that they couldn't get that victory when they came back from 17-3.
Yeah, and we have a comment here from our guy Don Corleone, who's a Lions fan. He says the Lions didn't play their starters in preseason too, but the difference is they're bringing back most of their guys offensively and most of their guys on defense outside of the secondary, and so I understand the Lions not playing most of their starters during the preseason. I don't know. I didn't understand it from the Rams' perspective when you have a lot of new guys on defense. That's the only thing, especially when you get worn out late in the game. That's my only point there. Shout out to the Lions. They played pretty good. I was kind of surprised they let the Rams back in this game. A lot of unforced errors by them, but I
It
mean,
wasn't the
hey,
best game for Jared Goff. He really
it
struggled
wasn't.
tonight.
Yeah, he looked like I'm sure a lot of Ram fans, he looked like he looked when he was here playing for the Rams. So I mean, and that's been the bugaboo with him. That's been the biggest criticism is that sometimes he doesn't look the best, and there's been questions about him, rightfully so. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Gilbert, in terms of the fight that this team showed. That was really impressive to see because I thought it was gonna turn up to be what we saw against the Bills, where they got run out of the building, in their own building, with all the injuries. They
Yeah.
fought, like, as you talked about. To credit to Les Knee for putting guys who really want to fight and play hard for this team, and McVay for putting. I mean, we saw vintage Cooper Cup out there. I mean, and Matthew Stafford in that fourth quarter was on a heater, man. He put that team on his back and almost pulled out the win. They just didn't have the horses to be able to, and that's because the Lions just uh just decided, hey, we're gonna use what you know is best for us, and that was running the ball. I was surprised they didn't run the ball more on the Rams. I'll be honest with you, Gilbert.
Yeah, they well obviously they did it at the end on that overtime drive because it was smart. They were gassed, they were tired, and you punish them with Dave Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. But yeah, that it was we could criticize both sides, but definitely Ben Johnson game was kind of a strange game. Then like he couldn't get the guys in rhythm. Obviously, it's good that they got Jameson Williams involved, but like Sam Laporta, Amon St. Brown, Gibbs, they kept trying to feed him, but nothing really worked. And I'm like, when you see Dave Montgomery having these massive punishing runs at the end, why weren't they using him before that? Like, they were really trying to get Gibbs involved early on, but he's a guy that, again, no, I'm not trying to Chris Collinsworth, but Gibbs, I feel like he kind of needs the Montgomery to be the tone setter, and then that's when he kind of goes out. It was the other way around this time. I'm not saying that Gibbs can't beat the first one, and then Montgomery feeds off of that. But for the most part, Ben Johnson has a good handle on it. But today he didn't. But that's also part of the, to Don Coleon saying that, the Lions didn't play the starters in the preseason. They also, for them, a little bit of rust there. So
Yeah.
from the Lions' point of view, they had all the pressure in the world because people are talking about Super Bowl. They're on the cover of SI, and they brought back the pretty much entire band. They're supposed to be better. You got the cornerbacks better, and you had a injury depleted young Ram squad come in there. Obviously, when you have Matthew Stafford, you're always going to have a chance, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to make it seem like it's like David and Goliath, but the Lions should have probably blown them out when they got to 17-3. So it was sloppy on both parts, and I'm sure even Stafford probably wants that red zone interception back. There's plenty of opportunities where they could have probably scored, or the Kyron Williams going out thing. So I think I saw Matokayo Gilbert's comment, like he's saying he's pissed off. I think there's plenty on both sides to be annoyed about. To me, I kind of just linger on the overtime rule, but I get it's regular season. You don't want to have these teams super tired in a very physical game. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. The outcome is all about the coin flip.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. I mean, we've been complaining about the overtime rule, but at the end of the day, I mean, had I think everybody was, whoever won that coin toss, you kind of figure we're going to win this game, Gilbert. I just, with the way things were going, I think that's the way it would have gone. But let's get to these comments. I want to make sure we involve, as we always do, our viewers here, and if you're listening to this on the playback, hey, go ahead and leave a comment on here. Jump on YouTube and leave us a comment. We'll respond back on there. Daniel, as we talked about, Daniel Calderon says we suck again. I don't think they suck. I thought they showed great heart tonight, but I get it. I understand the frustration. Daniel, again, so many injuries, uh so many. It's year after year. The training or something has to change. And what's crazy, Gilbert, is that for like a 5 year span during McVay's first, when since he took over, before all the injuries hit them in 2022, they were one of the healthiest teams. Like, teams were looking at what they were
Yeah.
doing, and then it's just turned around. And I don't know if it's the field, what it is, the training, as Daniel says. I'm sure we'll need to kind of figure out why that is, because a lot of them are young. Like Steve Avila didn't miss a game last season, and he gets hurt in the first game. Joe Noteboom, he's been hurt. It seems like every time he ends up playing. And then with Puka, I mean, the way they used him last season, and it kind of reminds me of what we saw from Cooper Cup once he got injured. I think we're having that. I think when you put that much stress on a player one season, it's gonna come back. Like, maybe Ocho Cinco was right. He should have stayed with the McDonald's diet instead of training with Cooper Cup, because he ended up getting injured. So who knows, man? You just never know, right, Gilbert?
Yeah, and before I get to the injuries, the at least on the Lions side, there was a lot of like players slipping. Like it felt like it was a game in
Yeah,
Brazil. Like this is supposed to be an NFL field, and everybody's just slipping. And like credit to Amon Rossi Brown on one of the passes where he slipped and he couldn't catch the ball, but at least he had enough to bat it down in case for an interception. So yeah, many times I saw players on the Lions falling, but going back to the point of the injuries, like yeah, no boom can't stay healthy. That guy, I don't know. I don't know what it is with him. And yeah, when you got AJ or Curry, Curry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that right. But we didn't think we were gonna have to talk about AJ today on the show.
right.
But to get to that point, and then you got McClendon Jr. on the right side, and then you're going back and forth with Jonah Jackson from center to left
Yeah,
guard. I'm sure they did not imagine losing Avila. Shout out to Bo Limmer for not doing anything. Like for a center, if you're not like notice, if you're not your name's not being called and it's not
yep,
noticeable, you're messing up. You're doing just fine. Okay, so
yeah,
yeah, again, like it did not go the Rams' way, and you definitely need Puka Nacua. Like Puka Nacua, if, say he stays healthy, you don't know how the outcome goes here. He goes in this game because he's definitely a big part of the offense. But it was nice to see Tyler Johnson step up to allow
yes,
Cooper Kupp to get maybe a couple single coverage every now and then. So yeah, I saw one of the comments. I think Daniel said any word on Puka. Obviously, I haven't seen anything, but like I'm guessing it's gonna probably take a day or two for us to find out. They got the Cardinals next week. That could be kind of a sneaky, entertaining game. They got the 49ers after that, and I think the Bears. So hopefully, it's nothing that's too long term. But it does feel like this is a game they could have probably like stolen, and feeling good about week 2 with all the injuries.
yeah. And I mean, I don't think we're gonna hear about it like you said till Tuesday, and then I think it's probably gonna be week to week depending on how things go. But with knee injuries, especially since he had already gotten hurt during training camp, and he took some time off. Let's wait and see what happens with that. But it didn't look good, especially
Yeah.
I know how frustrated he was. He looked frustrated on the sidelines with
Yeah,
it. He
and he
wanted to
tried
go
to
back.
give it a go, and then he just
Yes.
couldn't. So I'm not trying to, speculate, but that's usually not a good sign.
Yeah, let's get back to these comments here. We have Nathan LDO2. It says Sean McVay overworked himself and needs to understand and take points at any possible chance. And that's where Daniel Calderon also said and first and go on the one and no TD. So they also went for it on fourth down, and they didn't get any points too, Gilbert. So
Yeah.
those were some lost
What
points
was
as
that?
well.
There was like an ugly or face mask or a hold
Yes,
when
that was
Whittington got the end around pitch and got the touchdown.
right.
That
It
was
was
also brutal.
Yeah, it was our Curry,
Yeah, or core. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that was yeah, and he was out of the play. You didn't really need
yeah.
to
He was
reach out
pissed.
and do anything too, but yeah, they ended up getting a field goal out of that. So I understand the frustration there too. And as you say, your Tocayo Giver says, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pissed. So I mean, yeah, the frustration, especially when you get back in this game, you would hope you can you can come back and pull out the win. Delver Sagado says they played tough, disappointing to lose. They dug deep despite injuries. That penalty on Witherspoon, TD hurt. Onward on the West, it's gonna be tough. So yeah, with all the injuries, Gilbert, I'm sure mounting here, especially in game one. You just hope you can get everybody back, and then back to Nate again. He says, "Oh no, we said
Yeah,
that one already." Willie
he did
Bowen
it
says
twice.
penalties kill the LA Rams in this game.
Yeah,
I'm guessing this is a someone. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna put that. Onyx. Onyx, where you been? We tried giving the Puka Nacua jersey to you, and then you never responded. And now he says, "Sorry, I'm late. Did I miss any?" Yes,
yeah. You,
we
you
tried
missed
giving away.
something.
Yes, you missed a
I don't,
lot. We
I'm
tried
surprised
giving
you
away.
told them, Victor, because now he's gonna be really pissed off that he's been
Yes,
away. But
yes,
yeah, and also as a reminder, I'm still trying to pick a day where everybody's just lighting up the comments. Remember this for future shows. Like if the comments are just going off and there's a bunch of comments and it's a good show, I'm gonna just say F it. Today is the day I'm gonna give away this Puka Nacua jersey.
yes,
But yeah, Onyx, we had multiple people win this thing and nobody showed up, so it went unclaimed. So we're gonna do it again. But yeah,
yes,
look out for a future show. And also it'll most likely be, I shouldn't give it away, but maybe during a win or maybe during the middle of the
yeah,
week, just a show where people are really lively. But right now, I like to tell people have mixed emotions, so it's not a
yes.
good day.
Yeah, so it's good to have Onyx back on here. 2020 26 26. Delver says, I would like to, I
Yeah,
would have liked Corum to get a few carries. Yeah, two carries for, what's his name? Why am I blanking on
Blake.
this thing? On, I had it right here. Ronnie Rivers, sorry. On
Oh,
Ronnie Rivers. Two
yeah,
carries for Ronnie Rivers and no Blake Corum. So yeah, yeah, Delver is right there.
yeah. And I was right about Kyron Williams still being the focal point of the running
Yes.
game, but I did not expect Blake Corum to get no carries and then just two for Ronnie Rivers. It was a weird game for Sean McVay, but I get it. When you don't have your offensive line, the things that your philosophy, your scheme, your game plans, they go out the window. And maybe sometimes when you don't have your good players for the game plan, you just say F it, Stafford, go save the day. And that's kind of what it felt like a little bit.
Yeah. Elfer says, thoughts on Reader and the linebacker spot. I thought they played
Yeah.
average. I mean, that's what you expected. They honestly played better than I expected. Just with, losing Ernest Jones and trading him away on, somebody that we probably thought was going to get cut. But yeah, I thought he did a good job for.
Yeah, it does make me wonder also, like, was Chris Shula having a safe game plan because he also like, oh crap, now I gotta adjust without Ernest Jones and things like that. But for the most part, it felt like a very Raheem Morris game that he usually calls, like bend but don't break. There wasn't there was the one interception, right, Victor? Am I missing any other
Yes,
key?
yeah, Johnson. Then you had the Byron Young got a sack, and so did Verse, which I thought looked good. They showed great speed off the edge there, and even Michael Hoyt, made some
Yeah.
plays. I thought in this game as well. You saw Brandon Fisk show out like he showed. He was just tired at the end, man. And the offensive line of the Lions just opposed their will on the defensive line. I think they were just tired at the end. They were gassed. You could tell.
Yeah, and I just double checked. That interception did lead to a touchdown, so that was a
Yes.
big part for the defense. So yeah, they had their moments, and yeah, maybe you want a little more blitzing, but like it's tough when you're playing a dangerous Detroit Lions team with so many weapons. And I think for the most part, it was a good strategy because they love to attack the middle of the field, and you didn't see a lot of Sam Laporta and Amon Ross St. Brown, and that's why I think that was part of the reason why the Rams hung around for so long. So credit to Chris Shula for having a good game plan and just having guys fighting, even though like we mentioned, Victor, they didn't have a lot of experience in obviously in the NFL or also in the preseason.
Yeah, and Roseboom played pretty good too. He was all over the field. He was making tackles, so that was good to see. That like the defense didn't lose this game, and I think at the end of the day, it was down to injuries. I mean, and the fact that they were just gassed at the end. Let's continue on with these comments. Deuce Falco says no, Rams should have won in regulation, and then also training field is tough, costing issues. Um, G. Varasi says it's just the first game. Long Caesar Limmer looked good. Should be starting. And I asked Adam Grossbart about Bo Limmer, and it was good to see him get some first rep snaps during training camp, Gilbert, and they paid off in this game. I think if you have some of those guys miss, like Steve Avila, at least you have a good center there to back up. Now, I mean, that was one of the things we talked about, Gilbert, was how they needed to have depth on this offensive line, and now especially with all the injuries, it's going to be vital that these some of these guys step up.
Yeah, well, that's one guy who did get reps in the preseason was Bo Limmer. So he seemed ready for the moment. It's a tough ask to do for your first regular season game and just to fill in. So you know, there's a lot that goes into it when you lose, so many players on your offensive line. Like you lose three starters, you lose a couple left tackles, you're switching positions from center to guard. You're playing in the second half when you're all cold and you're not warmed up. So a lot goes into it where it really affects the game plan and the play calling for Sean McVay. But I thought it was critical that a guy like Tyler Johnson and Demarcus Robinson. I think Robinson was the one that caught that pass when Stafford took a big shot on third down. They didn't go. That's the one where they failed to score. But plays like that are reasons why Cooper Cup had a great game where he turned back the clock. And also for the critics on Cooper Cup saying he's too old, he's washed up, he played pretty damn good today.
Yeah, and I thought so too. I mean, they needed that game, especially with Puka Nacua. And then, as you mentioned, I had my doubts about Tyler Johnson and why you would have kept him. I thought that was huge for Tyler Johnson. It shows that having a veteran receiver on this team helps a lot. I thought we'd see more Demarcus Robinson as well as Jordan Whittington. It was nice seeing him on that end around and touchdown that got called back, but it'll be interesting if Puka does miss some time, whether they give most of those reps to Jordan Whittington or they give them to Tyler Johnson, because Tyler Johnson I thought he played really well and adjusted to playing that Puka role.
Yeah, I thought so too. But initially, this surprised me why Jordan Whittington didn't get more opportunities. But it makes sense. It's his first game as a rookie, and you're being thrown into the fire. So a guy who's experienced like Tyler Johnson, he knew what to do. He knew how to answer to the moment, and it showed on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you're gonna need guys to step up now. Guys like Tyler Johnson and Jordan Whittington, especially if Puka has to miss some time. But let's continue on with these comments. Henry Camacho says the Rams did a good job of making adjustments. The online depth was impressive. The defense was playing with their hair on fire. The team will get healthy. Shula would be a good head coach in 2 years. So let me ask you off this question. You just give me your thoughts on Shula and his performance tonight. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure we kind of talk about, because I mean, I had my doubts about what we were going to see. We did hear he was going to be a little bit more aggressive than Raheem Morris, but as you said, he was pretty conservative in terms of his play calling, right?
Yeah, and it's tough to gauge why he did that, but for the most part, you look at the results. It might have been part of the game plan to just play zone and be safe because of the guys who didn't really contribute. Amon Ross Brown, Sam Laporta. So that was good from him on his part also too. Like when you get to Q, that's when you lose Jameer Gibbs. They bottled them up for most of the game, and Ben Johnson kind of made the mistake of not getting Dave Montgomery more involved. But all the guys who have speed or explosive players in the middle of the field or in the open space, besides Jameson Williams, maybe that one caught him by surprise because nobody really expected him to do that. But it was a good game plan. It wasn't like an amazing game plan where like, yeah, it's gonna Henry. Like I would not. I'm not gonna say he's not gonna be a head coach in 2 years, but it wasn't one of those where like, yeah, he could be a head coach in 2 years. It wasn't that obvious to say that. But I did watch that terrible New York Giants game against the Minnesota Vikings. That the new DC for the Giants, he was getting cooked by Kevin O'Connell. It wasn't that kind of game, obviously. For Chris Shula, he was so much better than that. But sometimes playing it safe is okay for your first game as a play caller. So you don't want to get cooked up and down the field. There was that one stretch where the Lions were moving up a little bit. Not too dominant, but he adjusted for the most part and stuck with the game plan.
Yeah, and that I did like that. I mean, I like I said, and one of the things that they build with this team is they're fast. They get to the ball, so they try to keep everything in front, and they just run to the ball. It doesn't matter, who gets there first, but then once one guy gets there, then the rest of the people, which I thought that was the impressive thing about this team, is they're really fast. Especially, I thought one guy that really stood out was friend of the show, Quentin Lake. I mean, him playing the star position, Gilbert. He was out there. He was moving around. He didn't get beat on a lot of plays, and he really showed out. Like I haven't. I'm not one of those. I need to see the all 22s film and all that. I just saw him whenever there was a play to be made. He was out there and he was close to the play, which is what you want from your star players. So I thought big ups to him because he really played really good.
Yeah, he had 10 tackles, and I did see him, flying all over the field. So, for the most part, this defense, 363 total yards, it's not like a lot, but it's not over 400 yards. So, when you go over 400, that's when you have a problem there. Again, not a good day for Jared Goff there. The rushing, I think a lot of those rushing yards, it was 163, came at the end of
Yes.
the overtime period.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get to overtime, you're looking at a game where you held them to 300 yards. What,
I remember
20
seeing
points
it,
or
right. I was surprised because, sorry to cut you off there, but I remember seeing that the Rams were like over 350 yards on the game, and then the Lions were under 300, which I thought that was going to be one of my talking points today.
Yeah.
But as you said, I mean, in that second half, they took over and they ran the ball down the Rams' throat. And
Yeah.
then
So
to that question, sorry, here we have Delver says your opinion on the Ram D line against the quality Lion O line.
yeah, again, it wasn't because they weren't like a very aggressive defensive front. And they were trying to keep it safe, but you know, there wasn't too many games where like, oh, I mean, too many months were like, oh yeah, Jared Goff is gonna be very good. He had that one sack. He had the sack at the end of the halftime, but it was kind of like it was like, okay, let's go to the halftime in the locker room. Who cares right now? And he got Jared Goff down. Michael Hoyt had a couple moments where he did flash, and even Byron Young was putting pressure on the Lions offensive line, but it's just tough when you're going against Penei Sewell and all those guys on the Detroit offensive line. So, Kobe Turner actually made an impact very heavily in the first quarter. I remember that, and he kind of got quiet, but you would like to see more from a defensive line that you heavily invested in. But also, it's that first game without Aaron Donald, AD. I think they're saying life after Aaron Donald, but
Yeah,
you know it's just it's like I was very like hesitant to say okay this Ramsey's gonna be very good because of that Aaron Donald factor, and now seeing one game in like oh okay they were able to adjust. It wasn't like a total like damn like you really want to call Aaron Donald to come back. So it was kind of like that Eagles game where when after the game you're not asking okay where's Jason Kelsey you need him back. Same thing with the
right.
Rams. It's not like okay you really gotta it's gonna help, but it's not like okay, you got to get Aaron Donald back to be something in this defensive unit. So that's also a credit to Chris Shola.
Yeah, and I thought they played pretty. Brendan Fisk, I thought showed out. I really liked how how good he played in this game. And as you talked about, I think Kobe Turner now he's going to be the one that gets most of the attention. So it's going to be up to Braden Fisk to do something in the edge rushers. I think for this defensive line to be able to put pressure on the quarterbacks that they'll face, especially a Kyler Murray. It's going to be tough. They're going to have to
Yeah.
set the edge there. It's going to be very important for them to do that because he torched the Bills today. But we'll get to that on Wednesday when we preview that matchup. Let's get to Joaquin Quijada says we're good. Our entire O line hurt. Took it to overtime. Kupp is back. Maybe need to run with three fresh running backs. We had a third string left tackle. Defense is young, fast, and a lot of room to growth. He also said a lot of injuries, and this team will look dangerous come October, November. Durant stepped up, and our run defense is vicious, but our offense needs to score. Good to see you, fellas, and be back. So yeah, good to hear from you. We haven't seen you, Joaquin, in a little since last season. So
Yeah.
glad to have everybody back on here as well. And then one more comment before you answer what Joaquin said. Honest was like, "What? Yeah, like we we tried giving away that jersey to you, and we never got a response back, so we had to move on."
Yeah, and Joaquin, I'm glad you gave Kobe Durant a shout out. Because you wanted him to make a step last year. He didn't really do it. So if he's able to kind of do that, where he's making impact plays where they're desperately needed, that should be good. And yeah, and Tre'Davious White had a good game for the most part. I would say he got burned on that Jameson Williams play. He had maybe a couple of bad plays, but it wasn't a total like because they had a bunch of injuries. Like there wasn't like they were going up and down the field with a very good
Yeah.
offense. They made Jared Goff look like the old Jared Goff of those final Rams years. So, you know, again, we could keep talking about the positive takes, but it's just a game that didn't go their way, and they fought their butts off.
Yeah, and like we started the show with a bunch of comments where people were, kind of pissed off. But if you look at some of these comments here, like the rest of them here with Henry Camacho again, it's the first game people on the road in a hostile environment, they will be okay. And then you have Suave Norteño, which I love that name. It says, not at all disappointed at this loss. Half our O line was hurt and still played hard and could have easily won this game. If it wasn't for a few mistakes here, we would be 1-0. And so, yeah, I mean, it's good to see some of the positive. Like people are seeing that this game, the way the Rams played in this game, it was like I said. For me, I thought this game was over at 17-3. I thought the Lions were going to run away with this game. The fight that this team showed, I think, is something that you want to continue to see the rest of the season because as we saw last season, Gilbert, they started what they were 3-6 at one point,
Yeah.
and then they went on a run, and then they made the playoffs at 10-7. So I mean, it'll be, that's what you kind of want to see with from a Sean McVay and less need led team is you want to see that fight, especially with all those young guys. It's gonna take a little bit of time. I know everybody is expecting after the season they had last season, making the playoffs and then taking the Lions all the way to the wire, that it was just gonna click again. It does, you lose Aaron Donald, and now you're dealing with a bunch of injuries. As Fabio Norteño said, it's just gonna take a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's way too soon to panic after what we saw last year and the way they turned it around. So, yeah, you don't want to dig yourself a hole too big, and going to Arizona next week is going to be very tough because we saw how much the Cardinals pushed the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo today being Sunday. So it's not going to be a gimme, but it's not a game that they're going to be totally mismatched. So they could definitely win that. We'll see how the injuries turn out, but it's the NFL. It's gonna be tough games every week. There's gonna be games where you don't even know who's gonna win, or games that are surprising. Like who would have thought again with the Rams staying this late or overtime with the Lions, or earlier where the Patriots beat the Bengals. So it's the NFL. It's not as easy. Like I picked the Lions to win, but I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna get it wrong when they rallied. So you just never know.
Yeah, and like I told everybody, I would have bet the under on this game just because I knew this was going to be one of those low scoring games. It wasn't going to be as everybody predicted that it might be a shootout. It's just that's just the way when you have well coached teams, that's usually what is end up going to happen. And then plus you also have the whole, you know, teams not playing their stars during the preseason. Everybody's rusty. You're not getting the quality of football you want in that first week. It's going to be until that first month of the season where you really start to see what NFL teams really show their how good they are. We won't know for the first quarter of the season, Gilbert. But I wanted to show you this stat from that I saw from stats and information from ESPN. Says the Rams have now lost 98 consecutive games when trailing by 14 points or more in the second half, which is
Wow.
the longest active streak in the NFL. Their last such win was in 2016, Week 16 versus the Washington team. I'll just call it that. But yeah, I was kind of surprised by this stat, Gilbert, because I would have thought that under Sean McVay, if they if they can come back, he would be able to do it. But yeah, that's interesting. If they trail by more than 14 points plus in the second half, they haven't been able to come back for a win.
Yeah, that is such a weird stat, and maybe part of it was like, okay, well, like maybe they don't fall behind too much by double
Yeah,
digits in
true.
the Sean McVay era, but that's a lot of games too since 2016. So yeah, kind of a weird wrinkle there, but you just never know. And again, in the NFL.
All right, Gilbert. So just as we put this game to rest here, we put an end to it. Just give me your final thoughts on this game, and then what do you want to see going forward from the Rams?
Yeah, it's tough because all the injuries that occurred to a lot of key players without Puka Nacua. So if I'm going off of what I saw today, I want to see more of the running game involved, and especially if you have a whole week to prepare, like for say it's Bo Limmer at center and AJ Curry at left tackle. You could plan for that. You could scheme for that. So maybe they have a better running game plan next week, and you know, I'm trying to think about the Cardinals defense. The Cardinals defense was very up and down in Buffalo, so they are still who we thought they're going to be defensively. So the Rams could definitely score points on them. But yeah, I want to see more of a balance. But I get it with all the circumstances that occurred today. You just got to say, "F it, Stafford go save the day," and that's kind of he almost got there, but that's what occurred. And then defensively, it would be nice to take a little more chances, but you're going to be facing another talented offense in the Cardinals who couldn't get Marvin Harrison Jr. going, so they're going to be looking to do that this week against the Rams. But for the most part, it's just a tough game to really take a lot from because your best players were hurt. But just keep showing that fight and the competitiveness with some better like scheming and approaches throughout the week for these emergency situations. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and one of the things you can expect next week as we kind of give you a quick preview of that Cardinals game, both of these teams are going to want to run the ball. We've seen Kyron Williams have big games against the Cardinals, and then we've seen what the Cardinals run game looks like now since Kyler Murray has been back. So that'll be something to kind of key on. As we preview, we come back on Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Make sure you join us for our live edition of House of Horns as we preview Rams Cardinals week 2. But I wanted to get to these two comments from Joaquin Quijada. He says, "Same Brown, 2 for 8. Lets me know when we're at full strength. We'll be a top 10 defense." And then he says as well that Byron Young and Verse are just getting started. So yes, this is a young defense, and you know, having getting more snaps is only going to help. But yeah, it's a tough way to lose this game, Gilbert. But you saw some flashes here of what you can expect from the Rams as long as they can get healthy. And then now it's on to the Cardinals. They have to go to Arizona and for a quick turnaround there. So especially it's tough when you have a Sunday night game. You have to fly back to LA and then get ready for a game against the Cardinals on Sunday. The good thing is they don't have to fly far away. It's about an hour flight, but still it's on the road, and it's a much improved Cardinals team that they're gonna take on
Yeah,
Sunday.
yeah. It's not easy to start the season with two games on the road, but yeah, two teams 0-1. Kind of not a desperate game, but you're gonna try to avoid that 0-2 start. So we'll see what they do. But yeah, Vic, are we ready to give away some
Yeah,
awards
let's
or
go
some
ahead and
beer?
yeah, let's give away some beer. We don't have a sponsor yet, still, Gilbert, but just who gets your 12 pack of beer, player of the game, for this game?
I'm gonna take the easy one, Victor, just because everybody called him old and washed up, and even
Yeah,
I had my doubts about Cooper Cup going back to his 2021 days. So it's tough to even top 2021 when he got the triple crown, but just to see him like just put on the cape and say, okay, Stafford, lean on me like the old days, and everybody's hurt. No offensive line, no Puka Nacua. Let's just go back to the old days. We have the chemistry, and they really set the tone and kept the game close and just I think those two being in sync and just being confident and keeping the game close made everybody else elevate their games and feel like, okay, we got these guys here. That's going to give me confidence to keep playing with them. And it was good to see both of them and do that. It's been a minute for Cooper Cup, who dealt with injuries in 22. A little bit last year too, but and then also he kind of had to find a different role when Puka Nacua emerged. So to go back where he's a focal point of the offense, and especially with a lack of a running game and still making plays like that, was very cool to see for Cooper Cup. Turning back the clock.
yeah, and I know a lot of people were saying that this was going to be a revenge tour kind of thing for Cooper Cup, and so far is living up to that. Because I mean, he looked really impressive. It sucks about the injury to Puka Nakua, but for me, it's Matthew Stafford, man. Like what he did in that fourth quarter, some of those passes. I mean, there's a reason why he's one of the top quarterbacks. It's been great seeing him in a Rams uniform because now he's starting to get the flowers that he kind of deserves. I talked about how he's making a case to make it into the Hall of Fame just because look at the guys that he's helped. Whether it's Megatron with the most yards in the season, then you have a triple crown winner in Cooper Cup, and then the rookie receiving record with Puka Nacua last season. So it just continues to add to his legacy now and his resume for the Hall of Fame. And you want to continue to see that. As long as they keep this guy upright and healthy, he's in for another big season. And I thought he took some hits there, Gilbert. I thought
Yeah.
it's been weird. This I'm not usually a guy who complains about the referees because I'm like, look, they're usually gonna call it fair on both sides. But there were some games today, Gilbert, where I was like, are we just not calling like unnecessary roughness? And I wasn't just with the Rams. I saw it with Anthony Richardson. He got thrown down to the ground, and I was like, "Well, what's going on here?" So if they're gonna let them do that, then you're gonna get a lot of those quarterbacks hurt, which is what the NFL doesn't want. So, but going back to Stafford, big, he deserves a win, especially going back to Detroit. I thought he played really good, and he gave the Rams a chance to win this game.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Yeah, he took a lot of hits, and yeah, maybe he should have got a couple calls his way. But to be playing behind that type of offensive line and still generate a lot of plays, that's I'm not surprised. It's Matthew Stafford. So again, it was so cool to see Jared Goff and Stafford at the center or the middle of the field at overtime, and two guys that got traded for each other, two guys who were in better situations, two guys that really like playing for Detroit. So hostile environment starting to become a little bit of a rivalry. So maybe these two teams play each other again in the playoffs. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be a nice to see them again, and it'll be good to see have this conversation in the playoffs. So yeah, just want to say shout out to everybody who stayed. It's great to see have everybody back again. Daniel Calderon, Fly by Night, Gilbert Ruiz, Nathan LD02. I think that's how Delbert as always. Nate. Then we have Nate 02, which I think is the same person. Willie Bowen. Jimmy Bach, Don Corleone, Onyx 2626, Deuce Falco, El Fer, G. Baruhisi, I want to say, Henry Camacho, Joaquin Quijada, Onyx 2626, Suave Norteño. And so thank you. And Dano at the last minute here,
Yeah.
who he joins us late, but he always makes an appearance, which we love. Alaric Johnson let us down. So and then Delver says, good show, lost by a coin point onto Arizona. So with that, Gilbert,
Yeah.
yeah, that as we've given 45 minutes here. We had a little delay start, false start on our part, but it's good to have football back. It's good to have people in the comments. It's good to have these conversations. I love this. I love the feedback as always. Can't wait to see and talk to everybody on Wednesday night for our preview show against the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's very good, very cool to see a lot of people in the comments win or lose here for the Rams fans. So that's good. It was a close game. So on to week two, like Delver said, lost by a coin flip. What is it? The Ravens lost by a toe. So they're tough losses in the NFL, but a lot of good games today. So I'm just excited football's back, and we get to see how a defense that's so young with Chris Shula does in Detroit, and we could finally actually analyze it and pick it apart, and it's not just
Mhm.
preseason, so we're past that point. And but yeah, I'm ready for week two, and we'll see what happens between the Rams and the Cardinals.
Yeah, and can't wait on Wednesday for us to preview it once again. Thanks again to everybody who checked out the episode here. We really appreciate you guys hopping on, especially this late on a Sunday night. But Gilbert, it's time for us to go and get ready for week two.
Yeah, we were on live, not on my side for some reason. So maybe when the stream ends, that we're not still live for next to 20 seconds. So we'll find out. But on that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.